Hello and welcome to your weekly roundup of all the latest news and ramble about the world of electric cars from the team at electrifying.com. This week, we're going to be talking about the charts when it comes to electric car sales, who's topping them, who's not, and we will be discussing the car that only a mother or Tom Barnard could love. Plus, we will, of course, be answering all your electric car questions, dipping into the postbag to find out what you've been chatting about over the last week. Welcome to the Kilowatt Half Hour. I'm Ginny.
I'm Vicky.
And I'm Tom.
Yay, we got Vicky with us for the first time on the podcast, I think, Vic. Yeah?
First time.
First time. So for those of you that don't know, Vicky heads up all of our reviews. You are our reviews editor. You keep us all on the straight and narrow when it comes to that, don't you?
Well, I try. Yeah, I do my best.
It's not that easy, is it?
It's all good. It's all good. You guys are fabulous, obviously. And it's great to be on the podcast. I love chatting about cars. And yeah, I've made a career out of it for the last sort of 16 odd years. So it's all good.
You've come to the right place then.
Yeah.
So Tom, should we kick off with our exciting news? Should we just blow our own trumpets, bang our own drum, celebrate ourselves? Because, we're not very good at doing that when we're British, are we? But I think we should. Tell everyone our happy news, Tom.
So we are the News Press Electric Vehicle Website of the Year. So
publication. I think it was anything.
Wow.
It was print, it was digital, it was anything. So yeah.
Yeah, which was lovely, wasn't it? And they said, what did they say? That we were far ahead of anybody else or something? There was a particular quote, wasn't there? And it was very nice.
They said that we were the showstoppers.
That's the one.
So which was very nice, and they praised our mix of video and reviews and explainers. They particularly commented on the fact that we had a strong female editorial team as well, which is nice. And it must be. I mean, Tom, you spent a lot of time in this industry. How is it working with loads of women? Because that's probably a bit of a novelty, isn't it?
I suppose it is. I mean, you get used to these things, don't you? It just seems normal now that you work with women. Occasionally when we meet up, there's lots more talk about handbags and clothes than there was in any of my previous roles. But which sounds sexist, but it's true, isn't it, ladies?
It is true. We do it, but we then flip immediately to talking about the efficiency that we've been getting from whatever cars we've been driven. So we are quite good at doing it. And obviously you and I have been in this industry a long time, and I mean, like you, often the only woman on anything. Any launch, anything, and it's a bit different because there's a lot of us here at Electrifying, isn't there?
Oh, it's awesome. I love it. It was really good. And as I think we're going to talk about a bit, we obviously all got together yesterday and had a catch up and drove some cars, and it was fabulous just to see everybody. And and it is great to have such a sort of female strong editorial team on the website as well. I think that's it's a big thing. I mean, obviously Tom too, and Mike. Let's not undervalue these guys. But it's so lovely. And like you say, it's also great to get. I'm very jealous of your collection of jackets. So I was quite pleased to get access to your wardrobe and see where you get all your jackets from. I'm now going to be out there shopping for those. It's great. It's really good. Love it.
Vinted is my favourite place. Yeah. Honestly, there's a parcel arrives from a late night shop on Vinted at least every couple of weeks. Anyway, let's turn to cars. So but seriously, on the news press, just want to say a massive thank you, because if you're listening to this podcast either on your streaming platform or you're watching it on YouTube and you've been to the website electrifying.com, or you've just followed us on social channels, you follow us on YouTube, or you've commented on anything, you're part of this. And it really does mean a lot, because it's been hard work starting a new publishing brand. All the publishing companies out there are massive big companies, likes of Auto Trader and Haymarket and CarWow, who now own everything that Autovia does, which is all like Car and Auto Express and all those. So we started 4 years ago, and people were laughing at us, really. Why are you doing that? You must be mad. So it means a lot. So thank you for all your support along the way. But let's turn to cars now. So Tom, we were at the barn yesterday, which is our Electrifying HQ. We were all there. We had an interesting collection of cars, and it just shows the difference of opinions on the team, doesn't it?
Yeah, because if you're having this big collection of cars together and suddenly you're like, oh, can I just have a go in yours, and can I sit in yours, and can I do this? And it was really interesting because there was somewhat we all agreed on. So Vicky, you turned up in a Volkswagen ID7, which we all agreed was very lovely, but couldn't think who was going to buy one. And that's that car's main problem, I think. There was a Jeep Avenger, which we all thought was great. There's a Kia EV9, which we all thought was great, but were surprised by the size of it. I think in the real British world on British roads, it just seems big. My long-term Lexus UX300E, which I think is great and everybody else hates.
Yeah.
Vicky, should we do it? What is it? It's definitely a from me.
Yeah, no, it's from me as well. I mean, I think in isolation it's okay, and I know that they facelifted it, didn't they? And I think that was some improvements, but it's Chademo. I mean, what's that about? Why is it Chademo? And I just think for the price, I know that there are some good monthly deals as well. So, but even so, there's just so much else out there that's just better, isn't it? Really, is the thing I have to say. But yeah, you sing its praises, Tom. So good for you.
What do you like about it, Tom? Because I always say this is a car that only a mother or Tom could love, and you definitely have a kind of a theme with the cars that you like. They tend to be comfy. They tend to be, you do love Japanese built cars. And I think that comes maybe from your previous history working for brands like Nissan. I don't know, but you love all the comfort and all the tech in them. I don't know. What do you like about it? Come on, enlighten us.
I think what I like about it, especially the Lexus brand, is that it's going to work. So all the time you get into the car and whatever rain, snow, whatever, it's going to work and it's going to be easy to use. But it's just a relaxing car to drive. I get into that car and just go, it's like a comfy hoodie. That's what that car is. It's not something that's uncomfortable or you don't feel stressed about it. You don't think, is this switch going to work? Has it got haptics? Has it got 18 screens? Is it going to bing or bong at me? I just relax.
Oh no, don't give me that. It's a Lexus. Lexus are the worst for binging and bonging at you.
No, that car does no binging or bonging.
Really?
Yeah, because it's old-fashioned. Because it's quite an old design, I don't think it's got all those bings and bongs that the modern ones have got. So there's no binging and bonging. There's a slight vibration.
Wow.
I know. Well, I'm
old. They've
always
been very bad.
What can I say? It's a comfy pair of slippers, that car.
On the website, if you do head over to electrifying.com and all our reviews, you will see that we have a bit of a personal comment from each of us, because we think it's really important that, yes, of course, the reviews have got so much great info in, but we also give you a little snapshot of what we thought when we drove it. And we have a Ginny says, or a Vicky says, or a Tom says, and I think we need to change the Tom says on that car too. It's like getting into my favourite hoodie or my favourite pair of slippers. I'm sure that is not in any of our comments. Anyway. Yes, ID7, Vic. Let's turn to the ID7, because you've had that for a while now, and I've only driven that quite briefly actually. It was up for World Car of the Year this year, so I drove it for that, and I don't know, I really liked it. I think it's really nice, but I don't know, I just don't know who's going to buy it. I don't know, what are your thoughts?
Well, I think that is the problem with the ID7, because it's rather like a kind of modern good take on a Ford Mondeo, like an electric take on a really excellent Ford Mondeo. And the problem with the Mondeo was that nobody bought it in recent years anyway. And I think I do worry about that with the ID7, but they are doing an estate version. And in the UK, we love a big estate. So actually, I think, given that the ID7, for the equipment and the space and the efficiency, because I'm getting 4 miles per kilowatt hour out of the ID7 in routine everyday driving, which is good, and that's why it looks like it's got the aerodynamic kind of slippery looks to it. And I have to say, I really, really love it. I mean, I'm not against an SUV. I love an SUV, but I have to say, spending time in that, I do think that if I were in the market for a sort of £500 or £600 per month car, that kind of thing, I would seriously consider the ID7. I'd get the estate version, but I just love it. I think it looks kind of interesting and different. I like the fact that it's, very refined. It's comfy. I actually don't even mind the infotainment that much. I still hate the touch sensitive, temperature and volume, all that stuff. But you do get used to using the steering wheel instead. And so I've even because the ID7 was the first one to get updated software for the dreaded Volkswagen infotainment software and all that stuff. So I love it. I really like it. I like the efficiency. I like the way it drives. It's properly comfy, and it's like a Mercedes EQE for I don't know, 15 grand less than Mercedes would charge you for one, isn't it? So it's great.
Yeah, I think that's a really good sum up of that car. I thought the interior was nice.
Yeah, I think
Really
it feels
liked
really
it.
good.
I think it's the best, probably the best car, electric car VW make at the moment.
I would
But
100%
again,
agree.
yeah, I thought it was very nice to drive. I thought the ride quality was lovely. It's relaxing, but it still feels a bit sporty when you want it to. But yeah, it's funny, isn't it? I just don't see that market for it. But like you, oh, the estate. Now that's getting me excited. But again, that's such a kind of British thing, isn't it? And I would love to know from people listening, what do you make of estates and electric estates? Because we were all chatting yesterday, and one of the things we talked about was the electric estates we're excited about seeing. Like Nikki's done video with the BMW i5 Touring. And again, we're all quite excited about getting that in to drive that. And estates, they are something that I do really love. And I know generally in the UK, it's a massive market for them. So let us know what you make of the thought of estates. Do you love them? Do you loathe them? Do you not care about them? You can email us, which is podcast@electrifying.com. Or, of course, just drop us a comment in the comments below if you are watching watching on YouTube. So, yeah, estates. The car we all agreed on, Tom, though, was the Jeep Avenger, wasn't it?
We just all really like that car, don't we? I mean, it looks good.
Yeah.
It's cute. It's got decent range. It's efficient. And the interior, although it does feel a little cost conscious in places, it's got some character about it. That coloured, the body coloured strip across the top and that sort of thing. So yeah, we all like that car.
Yeah, I love the Jeep Avenger. It's great. I've done a lot of miles in the Jeep Avenger. European Car of the Year as well. So we drive it very early for that, and it won. So it was European Car of the Year last year, and I think it's great. It was one of the first electric cars that I've seen in recent years that was sort of actually genuinely small. So I mean, it's kind of the same size as a Volkswagen Polo, the actual footprint of it. So It's not a big car, but it had, it's got a range of 250 miles, real range. It's actually not bad as well. I routinely got sort of 200 miles and over, regardless of conditions in that car, real world range, which is a lot better than the sort of Stellantis stuff before it, because that got an updated platform and battery as well. So I like the Avenger for that. I think we need more compact, fairly lightweight, efficient, small EVs. My only beef with it is that it's not as cheap as I'd like it to be. I think it needs to be, $3,000 cheaper at least, really.
How much is it? I can't.
It's quite a lot. It's 35 and up, which I think is a bit too much.
That is a bit too much, isn't it? It needs to be 32, 33. It really does.
But I think there are some reasonable kind of monthly deals on it, that kind of thing. So monthly might be a bit different, but even those I think needs to be a bit better, really.
And then it was interesting because we had an EV9 there yesterday, and the one comment that everybody said was, "It's big. It's big, isn't it? Really big."
I mean, it had 21-inch wheels, and they look quite small on that car.
I know. It's ridiculous, isn't it?
It is. I mean, I remember you saying, Tom, it's just the wheelbase on it as well. It was just the wheelbase is so long, which is why, I think we've mentioned it in the review on electrifying and that kind of thing, that actually it would kind of probably benefit from four-wheel steer. I think that car, having a bit better turning circle would be useful.
Yeah, it's not got the best turning circle. I've been in one for several weeks because, as anybody who's listened to previous podcasts know, I'm still on one crutch, and I'm still, I can drive legally, don't panic, but I'm still struggling to get into lower cars, and it's supremely comfy, but yeah, turning circle isn't the best. The one thing I would say about that is though that once you're in it and you're driving it, apart from the turning circle, it doesn't feel that big on the road. It kind of disguises a lot of that weight because it does drive really nicely. And it was so interesting because I drove that car in America last year. Just doesn't feel big there at all. And obviously that's a massive market for it over there. Feels like a small car. It's ridiculous. Put it next to pretty much anything else in the parking lot at the hotel we were staying at, and it was like, oh yeah, that's much smaller than I thought. So it's interesting that, I guess that they've made it much more, I think, with that market in mind than perhaps with our European market. But on that subject, we had a comment in from Nicholas Riley on YouTube saying, "What is it with the Kia EV9 and EV3? I've heard you saying how good looking these cars are. Maybe I'm just getting old and beauty is in the eye of the beholder, but Lego bricks on wheels, anyone?" I don't know. I said, I quite like the blockiness. I like the Kia Soul though, and that's a very blocky car. Don't know. You're a bit more in that school of thought, I think, Tom, aren't you?
I think I like cars that look a little bit different, where you can instantly recognise them. And I mean, in today's world, I go into on the M25 or into a car park, and I think sometimes, what's that car? And for somebody who's lived their entire life in the car industry, priding themselves that they can, tell a tiny bit of a tail light and what car it is. To not be able to tell a car, it upsets me. So I like a bit of distinctive styling. I mean, there's ugly and there's distinctive, and I think the EV9 is the right side of distinctive.
Yeah, Vicky, would you
I would agree. I'm on the same page. I don't think they're beautiful at all. I don't think they're pretty, but I like the fact that they're distinctive, and I like the fact that they're brave. In the same way that I know a lot of people hated the way the BMW iX looked. I really quite like it because it's different and it's kind of got, real presence. And I think it's kind of ugly-ish, and yet I still kind of like it because it's, it's quite dramatic. And I think I feel the same about Kia with the EV9 and the EV3, and I like it.
I do. I love the lights. They call that star map lighting. They look a bit like constellations. I think they've got some lovely features on it. Anyway, let's move on to news stories. BMW sales figures. Come on, Tom.
Well, we've had the sales figures for electric cars in the UK for last month, May. And what is interesting is that BMW is sneaking up on Tesla. Now, we've always thought that Tesla are number one and they're going to be number one forever. But I don't know whether it's because they've just had a bad month and BMW have had a good month, but there is this trend, and we could see BMW overtake Tesla in EV sales in the UK, which would, I think, be a bit of a surprise to lots of people.
Interesting figures, but I was looking at them globally, so trying to put some global perspective onto this. And if you look at BMW Group's figures for the first 3 months of this year, so for Q1 of 2024, which is BMW, Mini, Rolls-Royce, they sold 80,000 all-electric vehicles across those brands. Volkswagen, obviously, massive brand. So their group sales, which does include, of course, Audi, Porsche, Skoda, Seat, Cupra, they sold 136,500. How many electric vehicles do you think BYD sold in the first 3 months globally of this year in comparison? So it's 83,000 for BMW, Mini and Rolls-Royce, 136,000 for VW Group. What do you reckon they did?
I don't know. I think I'd probably hazard a guess at something like 250,000, something like that. I'm not sure.
Yeah. Tom?
Does that include things like buses, which I know BYD are big into? I mean, if it is, it could be like 500,000 or something, couldn't it?
No, it didn't, and it was 300,000 cars sold, which that's just from BYD. So that figure from VW Group was all of those brands. So yes, these brands are, I think BMW is definitely one of the ones that's really taking a lead on electrification. But when you put it into what's happening in China, it's really interesting, isn't it? Because their sales figures are massive. Let's move on. So let's talk about videos, because we've been driving some really interesting cars recently. What have we got coming to the channel, Vicky? When it comes to videos?
We have got, Tom's excellent Cupra Born VZ video is already live. It's really good. Really interested in that car. I think that's very cool. And also another good one, Polestar 3, coming on this Sunday. So that's quite exciting. So that's the 9th of June, late on the 9th of June. So might be a bit of a Monday morning watch, that one, I reckon. But I'm very interested to see what that's going to be like. And also we have got the Alpine A290 walk around coming later this week, which I'm very excited about. I can't wait for that car. It just looks awesome. So we've got all of that coming.
So Tom, you're the star of the videos this week.
Yeah, what a shame for everyone. But the Born I love, we talked about that last week. I really like that. The Polestar, I can't say much about it yet until the embargo's lifted. But what's interesting about that car is it's halfway between an estate and an SUV. So it's perfect if you can't decide. It looks like it's kind of, when you put a picture into a website or on a photocopier and it's the wrong size that way, it looks like it's a stretched SUV or a slightly squished estate car. So no, it's you can see what I thought of it, but
see, I quite like the fastback styling of the Polestar 3, and also we're seeing a few. Like I like the Peugeot 408 as well, which is the sort of fastback. We're seeing a few more of those, aren't we? I quite like it. Cool.
Yeah.
Right, let's turn to your car buying questions and your comments. And of course, if you do want to get in touch with us, it's podcast@electrifying.com. Or you can drop a comment below. We've had with loads of comments, actually. We were talking about Ford on last week's podcast about, are they losing their way a bit? And there's some really interesting comments coming about that. William McBride has said, I predict Ford will likely sell their European division to Volkswagen. They are clearly not selling enough cars in the European market. VW are very prominent in their current vision and aims. It's quite an interesting one. Colin Palmer We had one Ford Mach-E in our neighbourhood. It's just been swapped out for a Tesla Model Y. Ford are pretty lost in the EV space. And Simon Evans, I don't rule out any brand, not even a Chinese brand. And we know that loads of you listening, and particularly visitors to electrifying.com, don't. In fact, 80% of you in a survey we did said you just didn't care where in the world your car was built. You were just looking for a good car at the right price. But Simon goes on to say, I haven't bought a Ford since the early 90s. Where is their fast charging mid-price hatchback? Where indeed is that? Currently, I'm a Peugeot E208 man. Excellent choice. I owned one of those for a couple of years and loved it. In which class there is no Ford competition? I think it says in every class there is no Ford competition, and why? And it's an interesting one because they are losing. Well, they do seem to be losing their way a bit, don't they, Vicky?
A little bit, yes. I think. Well, yeah. I mean, as you know, as has been said, where is the mid-sized fast charging electric car? Where's the small affordable electric Ford coming? Why is there no electric Puma yet? Where are all these cars? Why have they still only got one electric car? And also, if I'm honest, why have they taken like 2 years to launch the Explorer? I mean, we saw that car years ago. We've known about it. It's out there. Why is it still not on sale? It's just kind of, they needed that car 18 months ago, and they need 2 other electric models. And it does just feel like, I do sympathise with some people who are sort of saying that it does feel like Ford is sort of focusing much more on their commercial vehicles at the moment, and passenger cars have become a bit forgotten, really.
No, agreed. Interesting. And then we were also talking on last week's episode about boot space. And we had an interesting question, boot space on small EVs, didn't we? Go on, Vicky, do you want to do this one?
Yeah, so I think we had a comment on the EV3 saying, why make a kind of boxy small car if you're not going to give it a big boot? But actually, the EV3's got the biggest boot of its class, so it's pretty good on that front. And I think most people looking for a smallish car like that don't really mind too much, as long as you can get probably like a single lightweight buggy, or the weekly shop in there. It's kind of not generally what people buy those cars for. So I don't know. It's an interesting one. Actually, as a good point, I drove an Omoda E5 recently, which is slightly bigger, but it's got a full-size spare tyre. How about that for an electric car? I know. God. So yeah, more of that.
That's unusual. Oh yeah, we'll be talking a bit more about the Omoda. They're an interesting one. I think it was that Jude Brown sent that one in. Hello, Jude. And Jude was saying he's got to put a foldable walker in plus the weekly shop. But small SUVs are a pain in the bum. But I mean, yeah, as Vicky said, EV3 biggest boot space. But the other question that Jude had was about the lack of quality in our video cameras. Very sorry about that. We did start the podcast off really only planning to do it on streaming platforms. We put it on YouTube. We know the video is not always great. It is something we are going to address. Lovely Mike is out there at the moment researching the best webcams. So we promise you we'll sort it out. It's just been we're so busy all the time, and as I said, we didn't think we were going to put it on YouTube, but we have done so. We will be sorting it out, Jude.
And we'll get Vicky a new mic too.
We'll get Vicky a new mic. We'll all get webcams. It'll all be lovely and slick and wonderful. Anyway, I promise. Tom, classic conversions with loads of questions in about that, didn't we?
Yeah, well, there's somebody called Urban Strencan who's got a very good idea, I think. He says, another great podcast ever said, you should, as a team, buy a classic car and then make an EV conversion.
Oh, God.
Greetings from Slovenia. So when do we start? I've got the tools. What are we converting?
God. Oh, Urban Strencan in lovely, beautiful Slovenia, which is the most gorgeous place. What have you unleashed? Why did you suggest that? Honestly.
I've got an old Land Rover. That could do with an urban a conversion. That would be quite nice.
Maybe we team up with our lovely friends at Electrogenics who have got the conversion kits. So maybe it actually is a video or something that we should do. Watch this space. Okay, that's not a bad idea. Not a bad idea. Okay. Any more on the 2CV?
Yeah, there's a Colin Palmer who says, I was keen on the electric 2CV, but the 10 kilowatt hour battery was a deal breaker. Ended up getting a 500e cabriolet for a similar price. I mean, that is the main problem, is that you can buy a proper engineered modern electric car for the same price as the conversions. Yeah. And 10 kilowatt hours doesn't seem like a lot, but at 60 miles in a 2CV, I don't know.
Yeah.
Might be enough. Simon Whitcomb also has a doubt about that. He says, amazing if the 10 kilowatt hour battery in the 2CV can take it 60 miles. What you need to remember is that car weighs 640 kilograms, which is
tiny, isn't it? Yeah.
I mean, I've had packed lunches that weigh more than that. It's so efficient. There's not much more than a motorbike. Yes, Hisham maybe says my dad's first car was a 19. It's AMG, yeah. It was a 1967 Fiat 500. Would love to have electrified a Fiat 500. Now, interestingly, we did drive one, didn't we? An electrified classic Fiat 500 when we first started out the channel, and it was pretty ropey.
It was rope. It was awful to drive. Really poor to drive. From memory, it had a gearbox, didn't it? It had a couple of two-speed gearbox. Well, it was grim at the time. But
to make these classics simple, the conversions, they normally put an electric motor on the existing gearbox, and then you just leave it in second or third. That's just makes it far simpler for them. But it was still pretty nasty.
And then gone.
Yeah, there's a bit for you here. He said, I've also ordered a salary sacrifice high-end Ioniq 5, although Mike's woes with his Ioniq 5 are worrying him. But I'm starting to wish I'd gone for a Skoda Enyaq instead.
If in doubt in life, buy a Skoda Enyaq. I just agree. Do you agree, Vicky?
Oh, I love the Enyaq. Yeah, it's great. It's a brilliant car. Definitely. I mean, it is the answer to most kind of electric car purchasing questions, isn't it? So it's just sort of.
Ginny thinks it's the answer to all problems.
Yeah, I mean, I would go so far as to say for a long time, anybody who sort of said they want a standard family car of any size, shape, or variety for years now, I've just been saying, well, just buy whatever Skoda offers you that kind of fits the bill. It's that kind of, I do love Skoda for that. They're so kind of like, they're great.
But again, another one that, they had the Enyaq, and I've been dead excited about what's coming next. And it feels like forever, doesn't it? But we're going to get to see we're doing a covered drive in the L Rock soon, Tom, is that right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm going to go and have a
little poke around with that.
Yeah.
I hope it's good. I really do, because with the Enyaq, it's got a lot to live up to. Bloody hell, really has. Right, cable storage. We had loads of questions in about cable storage. Oh my goodness me, this is a devices topic. I don't know. So Tom obviously folds his cables neatly and polishes it and cleans it and gets his cleaning kit out. I chuck mine in the boot and it lives in the boot. Vicky, what do you do? What's your cable storage method?
I put mine in the boot, but I will also confess that I actually have a tethered home charger, so I don't actually generally get the cable out of the car anyway. I just literally use the cable that's on my charger. I do appreciate others, but yeah, if I take a cable, just stuff it in the boot.
Yeah, exactly. Anyway, we opened a can of worms. So let's go through some of these. Sally Barbar, I'm firmly with the tidy cables in the boot camp. The rest of the boot is like a cancelled tip, though. Oh, have you seen my cars? We're obviously related. There we go. Hugh Jones, loosely coil the cable and chuck it in the front of my Tesla Model 3. Joe Ulf, I think. Cable goes back in its bag and is stored properly. And on another note, we were talking about there not being enough signage about for EV charging on motorways. On another note, signage should indicate if EV car charging is available, how far the next one is, especially on major roads and motorways. We're going to make it part of our Electrifying manifesto. Dismas X 5855. Maybe you should actually put your names in the comments, then we can call you by your real name. Anyway, it's up to you. Must agree with Ginny. Cables get chucked in the boot with no regard for packing them away. Also, hardly use them, as you just said, Vic. We either charge at home or rapid if out and about, and that's my camp. Steve, always pack my cables away properly, but then he has a laughing emoji, so I think he might not really. One, actually, it's not about cables, but Thomas Masterson has said, I have had enough. It's kind of cable related. Frunk. I physically cringe deeply every time. This is the UK, so surely we should have a fruit or a foot. None of our cars have a trunk, so how they can have a frunk trunk. Loving the podcast and reviews, by the way. How do we feel about frunk? Vicky? Frunk?
I am with him in that I hate it, but I will confess to the fact that I do use it in reviews because people know what it is. And whereas I'm not sure that everybody knows what a fruit is, and also there's a confusion if you're talking about a fruit, it sounds like you could be talking about a grapefruit rather than, a car fruit. And, it's just kind of, yeah, I know it's an annoying Americanism. I get it. And I'm staunchly British and I'm all about boots rather than trunks. And yet, hate the word, but I do use it. Sorry.
Here we are. TB, Mr. Barnard, what do you reckon?
Yeah,
Does it make you cringe a bit? Do you die a bit inside every time you say it?
It's like one of those terms that your kids bring home from the playground, and you kind of use it ironically, and then you find yourself saying it, and it just becomes normal, like saying "cool" or something when you're age 50, or "wicked." I'm now saying "frunk" without even thinking about it and typing it, and it just seems normal, which perhaps is a shame, but that's how it is.
I fear it has just become EV language, hasn't it? People know what it is. So here we are, as you say.
It has. We've obviously, please do email any of your car buying questions to us. It might be a bit hard to drop those in the comments below, but we get loads of emails in about car buying questions. We try to answer them by replying directly to you, even if we don't put them on the podcast. And you can email us at podcast@electrifying.com. So we've had a couple of lovely emails this week. Let me read one from Ben Sterling, who says, "Hi everyone, love the podcast and the channel in general. You're doing a great job, and thank you. Thanks for your support on that. My husband and I have recently become dads to two wonderful boys, aged 4 and 7. They're the light of our lives. We're so lucky. Oh, Ben, congratulations. That makes me very happy. And boys are great. I've got a 15-year-old who's still in bed, and it's 1:15, but they are brilliant. You got two boys, haven't you, Tom?
Yeah.
Are they still in bed too? Probably.
Well, no, one's at school, the other one's travelling around Europe, so they're a bit older than yours.
But congratulations on that. So Ben says, we jumped on the EV bandwagon in 2020 with the now stereotypical but good choice Model 3. We're currently rocking a Nero EV and a Born. It's become apparent that we're going to need something bigger in the near future. The lease on the Born is up next year, and to replace it, we're thinking about a 3-year-old ENIAC. Should I stop there? Anyway, so a 3-year-old ENIAC, an ID4, an Ioniq 5, or the EQC. We'll probably keep it for 5 years or so, put a fair few miles on it, more than the 1,000-mile battery and motor warranty. My heart's telling me to go for it. My head is terrified that gigantic repair bills will arrive once it's out of warranty. It's not the battery that worries me, it's the motor and all the other complicated bits. It's a really good question, that, isn't it? I don't know what your thoughts are, both of you, on that one. Tom, do you want to?
Well, I think that I wouldn't worry too much about the motors because they've been proven to be very reliable, haven't they? So it's not something that concerns me. If it does, then either go for the Ioniq 5 or maybe a Kia EV6 because they've got a 7-year warranty, so that will give you a little more peace of mind, or just buy an extended warranty. I mean, I think they're quite expensive, extended warranties on some other cars. I think it was like 400 quid a year or something when I did that research into that Vauxhall Mocha. But you can always do that. If it's something that worries you, just buy the extended warranty.
Okay. I think we were chatting yesterday, weren't we, when we were all together, about this fear that if your battery goes, and I know Ben's saying he's not worried about the battery, that the whole battery's got to be replaced. And we were talking about our brilliant friends down in Cheltenham, who are fantastic, aren't they? Who are Cleveland EV. I don't know, what are your thoughts on Ben's concerns there?
Well, I mean, he does say that he's not worried about the battery, so that's good. It means that the message is getting through to some people that actually the battery is almost certainly going to outlive the car. And I would add, in terms of if there are problems with the battery, actually it is quite possible to have individual cells replaced, and that can increase the real world range and all of that stuff. So it's not often that costs less than, say, a new gearbox on an ICE engine. So there's all of that out there. I mean, I think I'd be more worried about things like ancillaries, like, that kind of, rather than the motor and the powertrain as such in an electric car. But I think if I were in his shoes, I think I'd certainly be looking at a used ENIAC, or, as Tom says, Ioniq 5 and EV6. I don't think I would go Mercedes EQC, which I think was one of the options, because I wasn't a huge fan of the EQC even when new. It's lovely inside, but the real world range isn't great, and efficiency and that kind of thing. And I think now it might feel a bit dated, so I would probably avoid it. And go for one of the other options. But yeah, I mean, there are some great cars there. And as Tom says, I think if you're worried, get an extended warranty or stick with Hyundai and Kia, because, they're just so good for that, aren't they?
Yeah, and Ben ended up with sending good vibes and positivity, Ben. So right back at you from all of us. We send you good vibes and positivity back. So hopefully that's been helpful. Right, we've got Derek Sterling now who has emailed us. Hello, Derek. Hello, team. Having just been for a test drive in the latest Mini Electric, we're looking to move from our current top-of-the-range spec-wise diesel Cooper S. But we were disappointed to find the opening sunroof is not an option on the electric version. It is on the ICE version, but not the EV. Pants. Yeah, pants. That's a bit rubbish. Weight. I'm guessing weight. Weight on a small car, not good for efficiency. So my question, therefore, is can you direct us to other small SUVs that we can look at? We discovered the Aura Cat, but have failed to track another one down. Oh, we've discovered the Aura Cat has one, sorry, but have failed to track another car down. Also, Nikki's review was a couple of years old, so we probably do need to update that. We're not into SUVs. They're really keen to move into electric, but they do want a sunroof. Any thoughts on that? Go on, Tom, you put your hand up.
My Lexus has an opening sunroof.
Oh, stop it! He's talking about small cars. Oh my God.
It's tiny, sort of.
Oh. So, cars that have got sunroof. Does the Renault 5 have a sunroof? I think it does it. I can't remember.
I doubt it opens. There's so many cars these days. They just don't.
Did the Honda
don't
E
think it's something...
have an opening sunroof? I know it's not in production anymore. I think the Honda E didn't it? I'm not sure. Yeah. I can't remember if it opened or if it was just a panoramic again or if it it was fixed. I thought it. I'm not sure. Well,
basically, we don't know, do we?
500C.
Yeah, I think it can be opened. This Honda E sunroof, so a second-hand Honda E, but then the range is teeny tiny on that. So you need to be sure that you're happy with the small battery, and in winter getting like 90 miles because that's what you'll get in that car. Yeah. What about Fiat 500?
Yeah, that's a good call.
500C.
Yeah, that's proper.
That was our first electrifying car of the year. The Fiat 500C. It's a really lovely car, that really is, and it's got that lovely rollback roof. So definitely, Derek, go and have a look at that one. Yeah. We'll ponder, and if we come up with any more, there is a car coming out soon that I can't talk about yet. So I've been to see something that is a secret, and that is small, and it's going to have a sunroof. But I can't talk about it yet, so we might come back to this in a few weeks. Right, let's rattle through a few more because we as always, it's the Kilowatt Half Hour and quite a lot. Let's have a look. Where have we gone? So we've done those.
There's somebody asking if I can do my monthly roundup of the bargains of the week. I'm doing that on the website now. So if you head to the website, I do a weekly update of the best leasing deals around, and I will, if there's some really good ones, I'll mention them on this as well. So at the moment, if you want them, Vauxhall seem to be doing the best deals. So cheap Corsas, and interestingly, the Astra Sport Tourer, so the estate, is cheaper than a hatch on a lease this month.
Yes.
Who knows why?
I did a thing on Radio 4, which is currently on at the moment, called The Bottom Line. So go and find that. It's on Catch Up on Radio 4. We were talking about Chinese cars. So we had somebody there from Omoda, who had the UK boss, James Taylor, at Vauxhall. And one of the things he was really talking about a lot was his deals, and how he, now with some of the deals they've got on electric, they're comparable with their ICE cars. So that if you are in the market for something, you're looking for something affordable, they're definitely worth looking at. I'm really conscious that we're now at 40 minutes, nearly. So shall I just finish up with one saying, dear team, I watched the Copenhagen Polestar 3 review by Mike Askew. Thank you for that. Do you mind if I ask what height Mike is? Mike looks tall. I'm 6'5", and it would be good to know what headroom there might be for me. Do we know how tall Mike is, any of us?
I think he's 6'4".
I mean,
he's got to be more than 6'4", isn't he? I mean, I saw him yesterday. His legs alone are 6 foot, aren't they? I don't know. I mean, it's kind of it's just kind of.
He's wearing high heels, though. Yeah.
Well, yeah, obviously.
We will come back to that next week, I think. But we think he is 6'5", 6'4", but we'll ask him when he's up next on the podcast. Thanks for that, Richard. Thanks for your email.
I think we need to mention all the comments, Ginny, about wanting you to stand for Prime Minister.
Oh,
so
God.
Can you confirm or deny? Do you have any plans to
to stand as my local I'd have to go for my local MP first, and quite frankly, I'd rather stick pins in my eyes. We'll continue to push the government, whoever that may be, to get things like supporting infrastructure sorted, to get the VAT reduced on charging away from home, to make sure that local councils are investing in infrastructure so areas don't get left behind, and all that other stuff that we rant on about. So I'll do it remotely, and I'll just shout at the government instead. Is that all right?
That's a plan.
It's a plan. Right then, I think it's time for us to say goodbye. Thanks so much for joining us for this ramble and your questions. Please do keep your questions coming. We do love to hear from you. And if we don't reply on the podcast, we will always do our very best to reply personally via email. So email is podcast@electrifying.com. You can drop your comments into the comments below if you're watching on YouTube. And if you are listening on your streaming services, please follow us and please drop a review, because it really does help to grow the podcast. And we've seen really brilliant growth on our streaming services over the last month or so. So that will be fantastic. But thank you for joining us. Guys, what are you up to next week, Vicky? What does a week hold?
Oh, well, I am, in fact, out later next week with the lovely Nicola driving the Ford Explorer. And
yes,
finally actually driving it. And hopefully you'll be able to actually buy it soon as well. The Ford will have another electric car on sale. So go Ford.
Brilliant.
About time. So I'm very much looking forward to that.
Tom, what about you?
I'm going to be driving the Polestar 4 again next week for reasons I'll explain in the video.
Okie doke. Very interesting. Okay, everybody, you have been listening to the Kilowatt Half Hour with the gang from electrifying.com. Thanks as always for joining us from all of us. Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.